You know, any game that lets this happen...
Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
is a masterpiece. Monster Hunter Stories 2 was so much fun. It was something special, and it was incredibly charming, memorable experience that I love sharing with both you guys and Cotton, and just having that adventure. And also, did you know that technically the game files for Altura's Tentacle as a monster that you could have exist in the game? Yeah, that's not utterly terrifying or anything. So what I want to talk about today is a kind of double whammy. First and foremost, the Monster Hunter Stories 2 art book has some fascinating and really well done things to look at with your eyes, and we are going to do some looking at it with our eyes, but also, there is a lot of could-haves, would-have-beens, should-have-beens in Stories 2 that we never got, primarily because how the development, understandably and very sadly, was hampered by, you know, the pandemic. And then past that, the idea that, well, we're kind of due the next Monster Hunter game spin-off that isn't sort of a weird mobile title or a kind of side thing like that, the next proper one. Because when it comes to proper Monster Hunter spin-offs, it's basically just Frontier and Monster Hunter Online, but even that wasn't, you know, main Capcom. When it comes to Capcom themselves, it's pretty much just stories for a big, proper Monster Hunter outing. There's been a few others, but nothing has got the scale, attention, dev time, budget, etc. that Stories got once you go past, you know, the actual mainline games. So let's start with what could have been then, as we have been enjoying these lovely looks at the monsties and the monsters that we got in the game. First and foremost, yeah, Daimyo Hermitar and his plum cousin, which sounds like the start of a really bad joke, were going to be monsties. They were set up to be, you can force it to happen if you know how, and it's absolutely tragic that that wasn't the case. Again, understandable why, completely, of course. There were much more important things going on in the world than cramming in a few more monsties. But at the same time, yeah, that is such a shame, right? Can you imagine what Daimyo's kinship attack would have been? Oh! Alongside that then, we were going to get Agnactor and Glacial as monsties, which is another big damn! That would have been awesome too. The laser beam of Clackness in kinship hype anime form? Oh yes, please. And yes, obviously, you know, the Altura monster, which I'm sure is just some sort of like debug thing that one of the devs kind of used or made and was never supposed to happen, because that would be absolutely ridiculous. There also was a potential Guardian Ratha as a monster and a one-eyed Ratha too, but I can see why they didn't happen, because we certainly did not need more versions of Rathalos in that game. So that's rather interesting and a shame to know, but there's a little bit more than that. You know, we got deviants, of course, deviant monsties, but not all of the deviants. See, some of the deviants were sadly left out. Things like Deadeye Angaruga, Rust Razor, Red Helm Arizos, Crystal Beard Uragan, but most notably, Night Cloak Malfestio.
Everyone is fond of.
Ah, you know how much I hate knowing this? Malfestio, while not my single favourite monster, is at worst third. I adore it to bits, and Nightcloak specifically is just incredible. The color scheme, the owlness, the invisibility, the item stealing, his personality. He is one of the best designed, most fascinating, unique, and incredible monsters in the entirety of Monster Hunter. And he would have been my number one monstie from the second I got him until the end of time. I cannot imagine a more perfect monstie. Yes, even over Brachydios, because while Raging is my number one monster, I feel like a monstie should be a little bit more personal and a little bit quirkier. You know, your signature partner that we see the NPCs have. And for that, for me, definitely would have been Nightcloak, and I am absolutely gutted that that had to get cut along with the rest of the deviants. So I thought you'd find that interesting to know a little bit of what could have been. But now I want to cast it a little bit further forward and have a look at what could be. Because, yeah, we have gone a fair while without a proper big deal Monster Hunter spin-off. And I am wondering if there might be, well, one in our future. Stories 2 was 2021, about halfway through. It's been about 2 years. And with the knowledge that we're going to get another game in March that's going to apparently sell millions, and we're going to get an announcement at TGS, what if this entire time the bait and switch is not Monster Hunter 6? That's still way later in 2024, the anniversary year, but it's Monster Hunter Stories 3 as an extra Monster Hunter game to add to the year. Or at least this fiscal year, but, you know, next time year. That would be a plot twist, wouldn't it? I don't think that's likely, but I do think there is a good chance where we get Monster Hunter 6 in March, as I talked about last week, and then towards the end of the year, October-ish time, September time, we get Monster Hunter Stories 3, or at the very least, the next kind of major spin-off by Capcom themselves for mainline consoles, maybe even PC, for Monster Hunter. That would be a really fun timeline. And in a world where Stories 3 does happen, and indeed happens so soon, how would we want it to look? Because I definitely think it is worthwhile. Monster Hunter Stories 2 got to around the 2 million sales mark. Capcom themselves would have considered hitting 1 million to be a massive success for a spin-off game with the whole entire world and turn-based and that kind of system. So the fact it did over double their wildest expectations for success is definitely the realm of they will want to do more and achieve more. And when are you most likely going to hit a home run with a spin-off for Monster Hunter? I don't know, about 6 months after you release Monster Hunter 6 for PlayStation, for Xbox, for PC, simultaneously, the essentially World 2 to capitalize on that, the single most successful Capcom game and Monster Hunter game of all time? I'm just saying that is a sensible timeline from a purely logistics standpoint. And when it comes to a Stories 3, I mean, honestly, I think the formula is pretty refined. You can make little incremental differences, changes. I think something like adding Espinas as the new Frontier now confirmed canon addition to Sunbreak as a monstie would be a nice touch and another nice way to do homage there. I think more unique monsters to it would be good, and I think more immediately tying that into mainline as well. I would have loved to have hunted Altura as one of the coolest monsters ever designed in actual Monster Hunter, and I do think it is a crying shame that that never got to occur. And I think there is obviously the potential for lots more monsties. We had some of the Rise and Sunbreak monsties, some of the new Monster Hunter 6 monsties, and generally I think we can just go larger with the scope. I think more of an open approach to it, as opposed to a more guided fight-to-fight storyline, could do wonders. Have a more, well, RPG side-focused Monster Hunter game is something that I think would go go down really well, and Stories is the perfect platform for that. It's hard to say any definitive changes I would want, because I really don't think Stories 2 had any crazily major failings or felt like it was missing something key. I think just more, bigger, better, and more open with a heavier focus on the RPG side of things is the way to go, and I think that would be a lot of fun. So I hope you have enjoyed this little talk, and I'd love to know what you would like to see from another Stories game, if indeed you would like to see another Stories game, or if instead you would prefer just having, you know, a different spin-off. Perhaps the Monster Hunter Village, like, city manager that I've talked about a little bit now that I really still kind of really want to see, but there's obviously no reason to think that will ever happen, but I can dream, okay? And which of these sadly cut monsties that you are most sorrowful to see not make it? And yes, sadly, Tetsukabra was never going to be a monstie, and neither was Duramboros, at least according to the game files, so, you know, pour one out for Cotton. But now then, like if you've enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below. And until we meet again, a goodbye.
This one goes out to all my Aptonauts out there, taking on Fatalis, taking on the world. We pet!
We attack! We slip and slap!
We pet!
We
attack!
We slip and slap!
We slip and slam!
We
Banana peel!
We attack! We slip and slap!
We pet!
We
slip and slam!
We slip and slap!
We pet! We attack!
We slip and slap!
We pet! We attack!
We slip and slap!
We slip and slam!
We
Banana peel!
We attack! We slip and slap!
We pet!
We
slip and slam! Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.